I am trying to share a screen. You've seen this screen here, the law of the mirror. You can see that?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
No, yes, you can see it. You can see it.
Yes, I
Yeah,
can see.
moving in and out of this, so I just wanted to make sure that we have that. My name is Julius Lukwago. I lead the team at Solutions Africa. I have been a member of the John Maxwell team for a while. I love serving leaders. Telling Ambrose earlier that in my previous life, I used to be in public health, so I enjoy what you do. I think it's wonderful for the country. I also teach at UCU. I teach the public health class, so I keep a close ear and eye on what happens in those areas as maternal and child health. Typically, I love spending my time with leaders, and we have 1.5 hours today. We might be joined by Fiona. I'm not so sure. She's somewhere in Mombasa at the beach. She's having fun. They have a retreat with the company she serves, she works for. So she thinks she can join in. We were to be with Sarah as well, another coach, but she's not able to come. So you're stuck with me, and Fiona might jump in as well. Anybody who watched the video? Okay, so you have an idea of what the laws. We could actually.
I watched the video. I did watch the video.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll start by debriefing what you saw in there, what you learned, the lessons you picked up, what you enjoyed the most, what stood out for you. And yeah, I will ask a few more questions. I said a lot in that video. I promised to complete 2 stories. So I hope you remember those who know the stories. If you can ask the questions, I will answer the questions. So we will go one person at a time. What stood out for you in the video? What key lesson did you draw out? Ambrose, you want to go first?
Go first. Thank you, Julius. The video was fantastic. It began as if it's a joke. You're home with your wife, having a discussion. I thought actually that you're just beginning to talk about something else until I actually realized that I was in the class. Very interesting. And the basic thing is that it insists on self-value. What you see yourself be in the future, and that's what you work towards. And what stood out for me, one was the guy that you interviewed, who asked for very little money despite his skills and experience. And I don't know what happened to him. You didn't make it clear towards the end. Maybe you complete that story. But people quite often fail to value what they're able to provide. And so they'll tell you something which is very funny. Say, man, if you give me this very little money, I'll be able to offer the service. And you begin to doubt what actually they can offer, a quality service or not. And then the thing that stood out for me is the issue of self-esteem. When you have so low self-esteem, it's difficult, very difficult to push your head further because you keep feeling that you can't really do much. And if I just quick example, there's a friend of mine who did an interview a couple of weeks back. They wanted to, and she never went through. And so one of the interviewers called me and said, this person failed to go through, but she was the best in the written. When the oral she couldn't herself. I said, come on, how does that happen? So I called her and she told me, I felt like I didn't have the potential to deliver on the job. And so I lost it at the point of interview. So basically, it's an issue of low self-esteem. So to me, the video was basically very touching on how to believe in ourselves, how to focus on that image that we see in our minds so that the people that we think we should be.
Absolutely. Very good point there. Yeah, just to to tell you how the story ended with that man. He didn't get the job. So he didn't get the job, sadly. Yeah, so it's very important, as John says, you can never outgrow your self-image. So I think he did not see so much value in himself. And that's the point you're telling us. You can never rise beyond your self-image, your self-esteem. If you have doubts about yourself, then you'll stop yourself from achieving your potential. Anyone else? What stood out for you? Who wants to go next?
Can I say something, Julius?
Yes, Catherine.
Yeah, in addition to what Ambrose has said, I think for me, my learning therein was that my growth, my value has to start with me. I have to have the confidence and I have to have the belief that I'm actually worth so much for me to be able to get that feeling also across to people. And so, like Fiona says, the value that you see or attach to yourself is actually the value that others will see in you. So if you don't have that confidence, again, there is no way somebody else will look at you and say, oh, I can actually trust Julius to deliver on this for me. Also, picking on that story again, I guess now that we know the ending is that because the guy did not have as much value for self, he ended up losing a potentially very, very good job. Also linking to the other two laws, of course, as you said, is that we need to be aware of self, and every growth that comes through has to be intentional. You did make mention that there are no monuments and trophies and all of those things for people with intent, unless that really comes into action to say, I have intended to do this, but also I end up doing it. So if I don't do it, then the intent is really of no use to us, and hence the growth will not happen.
Absolutely. Yeah, we have to move beyond intention to action. And as you say, if we don't have a good self-image, and I say good self-image because you might have an over-exaggerated sense of self-importance, which is way, like, yeah, you believe in yourself, but almost to the levels of narcissism, where you think you're too important, no one else matters. So we are talking about a healthy self-image, not pride, but also not undermining what you're capable of doing, not doubting yourself. Thank you very much, Jacqueline, for those good thoughts. Jean? Oh, it's Rhoda who has unmuted. Ready?
Yeah.
But Rhoda, we can see sitting. We don't see you.
Yeah, I don't know why.
Oh, it's a positioning, I think, of the camera.
Yeah.
And here you go ahead.
Yeah, so I already allude to what my colleagues have said, Ambrose and Jacqueline, and I liked your discussion on the law of the mirror. And they've already mentioned it starts with me. I mean, there are certain things we do and we don't know. To me, it's really getting to understand some of the things that I've been doing and have not been aware of them. Especially the laws that you've shared, like guard what you talk about yourself. I mean, what you guard yourself. Yeah, guard your self-talk. I mean, sometimes you talk nicely to yourself and you think maybe you're going crazy. I didn't know. I'm just trying to do something on my image. And then I also liked the bit of boost it. You can't say you have it and so forever on it. You keep building it. And I like the point where your wife was talking about if you've made a mistake, to pick out what the issues are, and then what lessons can you learn from them, and where you've done good, man, pat yourself on the back that, oh yeah, I'm good in this. I like that. And then also the third law, which was talking about do the right thing even when it is hard. Wow. I like it, and I've seen myself do some of these things. So yeah, I like the discussion.
Wonderful. So what stood out for you is the different aspects, the different ways to boost your self-esteem, guard your self-talk. That's so critical. And then do the hard thing, do the right thing, even when it is the hard thing. That's how we build our own internal thermostat that tells us we are wonderful. This is the value system we live out. Lovely. So Elvis.
Yes. Yeah, Julius, I'm sorry I did not, my link was bad at the time I'd planned to listen to the video. I only watched a few moments, you and the kitchen in Nairobi, but I could not listen to the whole link, yes.
No problem, no worries, my friend. We are here, and those who listened are going to share. They are going to.
Yeah, I'm sure I'll be plugged in. I'll be plugged in the conversation.
Yes, yeah, and it's online. It won't go away until we finish the 10 weeks.
Thank you.
All right, Jean, you wanted to say something?
Yes, I like what you say, that it is impossible to consistently believe and in a manner consistent.
Your mic is a bit low. If you could move. Okay, I think if you can get the mic closer.
Okay. Can you hear me well now?
Yeah, a little better. Yeah.
I said I like that what your wife Fiona said. That it is impossible to consistently behave in a manner that is inconsistent in the way I see myself. Because if I see myself as a person that is inadequate, there is no way I'm going to act differently. I will definitely act in a way that shows I'm not confident. I don't know what I'm doing. It's like so, yes.
Okay. Okay, Jean. Yeah, people are not able to hear you very well, so you might need to adjust the mic. Either you hold it closer to the lips, or you just speak a little louder. Yeah, I think something like that. But what I was trying to get it. I thought you were recapping what Fiona said, that it's not possible to consistently behave in a manner that's inconsistent with your self-image. If you are a number 3, and that's how you see yourself, you begin to behave that way. Number 3 out of 10. You walk into a room and you feel like all those guys are superior, they are wonderful, and you're not. And you decide to stay quiet or to walk out. Yet you could have added value in the conversations that you might start, or you could ask a question there, or you. So that's what he's saying, that we will, if we think we are 3, not possible that we will behave as number 10 in any room, in any place, or as a leader. That's what I gathered you're saying. We have to check our self-esteem, because the way we see ourselves is how we are going to behave.
Yeah, that's
all right.
Put forward.
Perfect, perfect. Yeah, Fiona left us with some assignments. I'll visit that in a moment. But if I was to ask, in your leadership life, or in the life of other leaders that you've seen, where would you say, or what example can you give where this law has affected a leader and that leader has not been able to achieve their very best? They have not been able to maximize their potential. Where have you seen this law at work in a way that maybe one leader was full of confidence and they had a health self-esteem and they achieved their potential. And maybe another leader you've seen who is being affected by their lack of a good self-image. Any thoughts? Mary, you're welcome. Anyone wants to share an example of a leader you saw who has been unable to reach their full potential because of a self-esteem, self-image challenge? Ambrose, you're saying something? Let me unmute you. Or you can unmute yourself, please. Yeah.
No, I had someone was bypassing and asking me a couple of questions. But in terms of the leaders that we've seen, I'll just show an example. My previous supervisor about 3 years ago, 2 to 3 years ago, is somebody who was really a mentor to me, but had really much self-esteem, I would say. And so we would sit in the meetings and make decisions, and he does the opposite. And one of my turning points before I resigned, we had laid salaries for all the staffs in the facility. And so I told him, why don't we write a memo for the staffs, so the delay for a couple of days, so that people don't keep expecting and waiting. If you tell them they'll be delayed for 1 week, so they'll wait from the end of that week. And then he told me that, you know what, that's not your job. Your job is to do the clinical work, and my job is to do the management. That was the turning point. I felt like that was too much confidence, and that he would do things the way he feels like. And I left politely. I basically took about 3 months and resigned. My feeling is that this person was actually maybe very confident, that he didn't ever want to listen to anybody. Or maybe his image, you would see, was quite way above. So that's my feeling. I don't know, I could be wrong.
Okay, so what you're saying that maybe that affect his ability to influence you or to lead you because he had an exaggerated sense of self-importance. It's self-esteem sometimes is seen only in the light of being low, having a poor perception of who you are, in the sense of I am not good enough and I am not enough. But it can also be narcissism, which is also a big problem amongst leaders. When leaders think that they know everything, they are the very best the world has to offer, and so I hear you. In that sense, the man was not able to reach his potential or to influence supervising you because of an exaggerated sense of self-importance. Any other example you have how someone's leadership can be affected because of a poor self-image? Low or way too high? Unhealthy self-esteem. Okay, anyone? Elvis, you look like you want to share an example. Not yet.
In the areas we've been working in, you find we've had scenarios where most of our work is in health system strengthening. You send a staff and you sit them next to the DHO, the person who is in charge of district health services at the district. But now at times we have challenges where the DHO feels they are more technical compared to the staff, kind of like down the staff who is there to support them. So we have that scenario where someone feels, given they have 20 years experience, they would not be able to take advice from maybe a person of 5 years experience. So we had scenarios in the areas we've been working in. That's an area where
very
someone,
good point.
yes, So those
a
are
very
the
good point.
common experiences we are having. Yes.
When you're in the DHO and you feel like you cannot learn from somebody junior,
Yes.
of going to miss a lot of things. Ken Blanchard says that problems should be solved at the lowest level where they are created. So the people we supervise actually know a lot more about the problem and the challenge. And if we choose not to listen, then we miss out. And it could be because you think, yeah, I am the DHO. What else can you teach me? So that could be a problem. Welcome, Francis and Mary. We are talking about the law of the mirror. You have to see value in yourself, to invest in yourself. You have to believe in yourself to reach your potential. Now, let's go a little bit personal. And we are a small group here. You can be vulnerable. In your life, how have you seen this law affect you? How has it affected you? How has it been a challenge for you to reach your potential? And what are you doing about it? Very hard question. When it gets personal, it can be a little hard. But just share. We are here to learn from each other, support each other. In which ways have you seen the law of the mirror affect you? In which ways are you struggling with your self-image, and how has that affected your leadership, your potential? What are you doing about it, or what challenges do you have where we can help you to do something about it? Okay, Jean wants to share, but we can't hear you, Jean.
Can you hear me?
Ah, much better. When you do that, we can hear you.
Okay. I have been looking down upon myself, thinking that I am not good enough in certain areas. But the little I have shared or I've done, I have had people tell me that I have done well. And so that has encouraged me. Many times as I'm doing my work, or as I'm sharing with others, I feel that I've started feeling that I know, and where I do not know, I can always be helped. And I've also thought, as I'm doing it, that in any case, not everybody knows what I know, and
Absolutely.
therefore I shouldn't think that what I know is not good enough. And by so doing, I'm seeing myself coming up again. And especially when I find people who have been encouraged by myself, and saying that because of the way I have helped them or guided them, it has helped them to move to the next level. So I've realized that actually
so much value.
It's not that I'm not able, but it's, and I should display this value in order for me to be able to grow in my potential.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you for sharing.
I've also found accountability persons whom I have asked to help me talk into my life where they see me weak, to help me, encourage me, and where they see I'm doing well, also still to encourage me, and it's helping me. Yes.
I've picked two thoughts there that I would like to emphasize before we hear from someone else. Finding an accountability partner, somebody who maybe is close to you and they can hold you accountable or catch you when you are having self-doubt, or when you're pulling yourself out of things you are capable of doing, but you don't believe you can do it. So I think that's a very important aspect. If you have a coach, you have a friend, sometimes we look down on ourselves and what we are capable of doing, and you need someone else to remind you of the value that you have. So having an accountability person or partner can help. The other thought that I had from you, which I want to emphasize, is really stood out for me, that surround yourself with people who speak good things about you, people who see the value that you bring to the table and they verbalize it. Sometimes we don't look into that mirror, we don't hear enough of that. What we actually hear a lot from those around us is, you're not good enough, you don't have this, you're not able to do this. So if you spend a lot of time with people, circle of friends that is seeing what you don't have, of course, you're going to struggle with your self-esteem. Just a quick story. I have a friend, and my coach is called Kario Babrana. He wrote a book, The Secret Name, Your Secret Name. Be a good book for you. Let me see if I can get a link. The Secret Name. But he used to struggle a lot with his self-image. He would self-harm. He thought that he has a lady's name when he's a man, Kari, and that affected him when he was a young boy. Many things happened in his life, and that affected him quite a bit. But he constantly reminds me, he says, look to what you have, not what you don't have. Because what you don't have, the list keeps growing. It never stops. I mean, what I don't know is a lot. What I'm not capable of doing is a lot. That list will never stop. I can't be this, I can't be that, I don't have that. If you wanted to list what you are not able to do, what you don't have, who you are not, you can go on and on and on and on. It will never stop. If you just refocus your mind on what you are capable of doing, what you're good at, then that boosts you and it feeds your self-esteem. So he tells me always to look at what you have, not what you don't have. Look at who you are, not who you're not. So good thoughts over there. Who else is ready to share?
I can share a little something.
Mm.
And for me, it's really picking around the point you emphasize about surrounding yourself with people who speak good things. For me, I think the important thing that I pick out of that is the fact that our environment sometimes determine what we end up thinking about ourselves. And I can give a quick example. I've majorly worked for 2 organizations, and this is probably the 3rd one. But in one of them, I suddenly found my core is really HR. But then in my role within the organization, I had to do things around national content and reporting to the government of Uganda on certain figures and certain aspects. So I suddenly realized that not everybody was interested in what I was doing, and that they quite didn't understand. So more often than not, I was being looked at as somebody who is doing very little. Just simply because they didn't understand the depth of the sort of things that I was doing. And given my nature, I am very introverted. So I have this thing about me that if I say something to you and I feel that you don't want to understand what it is that I'm saying, I'll let you be. I'll not push you to understand me. So over time, there were lots of things that I did, and I had so many files, all, very structured, and everything was really put therein. So at the point of my exit, I said to my book, I am going to have to leave this organization, and I wish to hand over. So it's like, what? How can you hand over? How can you leave? And all of those things. I said, well, I do not feel like my value is being appreciated. So at the point of handing over, so I go to him with all of these files, and I'm telling him, this is that, this is that, this is that, this is that. And he was shocked to get to realize the amount of work that I actually used to do for him or for her. And then I'm like, I need to transfer all of these files to you for me to be able to exit and exit well. And they're like, we didn't realize how much you were doing. But again, because not many people understood what I was doing, and there was these negative vibes around not doing enough, that kind of impacted on me in terms of, do I really want to stand out there and actually tell them what I have been doing, or also spite them by not telling them, such that they end up struggling at the end, which actually happened because 3 months, 4 months into me leaving, I was being called every other time, oh, this file that you filed here, this data, how did you come about it? And so I found myself having to do a lot more work with them, having exited the organization, as opposed to having been in the organization. So I guess what you're saying is it's important for us to actually surround ourselves with people who speak good, but also as individuals, we should stop and think about the impact that others can have on us, the environment within which we work. Because most times, like you said, if we are not willing to attach that value, to go over and above and explain certain things about ourselves to people, people will take us at that. And so for me, I guess coming into a new place, I have deliberately started wanting to speak about the things that I'm doing so that people actually get to understand it and also get to get the amount of things that I'm doing.
Wow, very good point. I like what you are highlighting, that when you keep hearing all these negativities around you, you might even ignore the good things that you're doing. And that affects your performance. It affects how you can reach your potential. Just reminded me of this quote from John Maxwell, which I've just put out there for everyone. What we say about ourselves, we tend to believe. What we believe, we tend to act. What we act, we tend to become. So it can be a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you hear everyone say, you can't do this, you can't do that. You're not good at this, you're not good at that. And then you begin to speak that same narrative to yourself. If you're hearing that a lot from those around you, especially if they are people of significance, your supervisor, your parent, it speaks into your heart, you begin to believe it, and then what you say to yourself, you become. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy that you have a downward spiral, becoming the person you don't want to become. Another thought, as you said, Jackie, that stood out, I want to emphasize, is a quote from, I think it's attributed to Albert Einstein. I'm not so sure, but he says, everyone is a genius and you're created to be a genius. But if you measure a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will spend all its life thinking it is stupid. So you find people are measuring you against what, you know, your maybe your weakness or something you're not good at, something that you're not. So for you, you're focused on HR. It's until the person sees all these good things you've been doing, then they realize, wow, look at this genius. So good point there. It takes us back to the previous week's law, the law of awareness. What am I good at? What am I not good at? What am I capable of doing? What should I focus on? In which areas do I want to grow? And then if it's climbing a tree now, you're good at climbing trees, you go there. But if you're a fish designed to swim and then you are spending all your life learning how to climb trees, then we won't see that genius in you. All right, who haven't we heard from?
Sorry, Julius, just to add, also picking from Law 1, which really spoke to us saying our own growth is as unique as we really are. So I think also it brings out the aspects of the uniqueness of an individual and how they will associate and how they would ideally deliver on certain things.
Wonderful. Mary, any thoughts? We're just looking at examples in our lives or in the lives of other leaders around us where we've seen the law of the mirror affecting us, either positively or negatively?
Thank you, Julius. For me, I always have many things anyway. So myself, one of the examples that I've had is I also recently moved on to another job, not very recently, like in 3 years. But at the time when I joined that other project where I was, when we were starting off, whoever was giving us money was not sure I would do that job. And it involved engaging stakeholders, you know, and a lot of things that needed us to work with the government of Uganda. Some of them. And as we went on, I believed in myself that I could do that job, given what I had read, that the responsibilities they wanted from that person. So anyway, the first 1 year, 2 years, I worked so hard, we got the things done. And I saw that project staff, the senior management was getting interested. They were seeing things coming out. But I had another supervisor who always felt like I'm there because he's there, you know? I'm there because he's there. You're not good enough. You are there because of me. You are there because of me. And obviously that was quite negative on my side. I thought I was there because I had the capacity. But on that person's side, he always showed that I was there because he's there, you know? So I decided, you know, this environment is not good for me. I need to move on. So I move on. And shortly after moving, I guess they were surprised. They start finding where I have moved on and telling their staff that you are lucky you have got that person. You are lucky you have got that person. But that was not coming out when I was with them.
Yeah, still with them.
You know, so it's like, okay, people usually know, but they are not willing to say the good things about you. So if you get bogged down by what you are hearing, then you can lose out. And I think it was a good move because I've seen that actually I can get things done and see the results. And people are like, okay, these things can be done. So I think that is something that I've also seen, that actually there are things that one can do. And you need to listen to yourself and know what you are capable of doing and try to live up to that. Yeah.
Brilliant thoughts. I was just writing that from what you said, we need to say, I can do this. I hear people say, I'm not good in this, but if I know I can, and I keep saying to myself, I can do this, then I will make it. No world record was ever set by someone who said, I cannot do this. In fact, when you watch champions, champions have this habit of saying to themselves, you can do this, you can make it, you can do this. Either during training or on stage in session. We all get nervous tension when the lights are on and it's your turn to perform, but you keep saying, I can do this. So you said that to yourself. And the other thing I see is that you left a toxic environment. That's what I see, toxic environment. I haven't written environment well, but do that. I can. I just missed a letter, but you have to leave any toxic environment around you. If you're a gardener, you know that seeds that are great, no matter how great they are, they will be their blossoming will be affected by the soil. The soil is so important. The watering, the gardening, the sunshine, the things that make a plant grow are less about the plant itself. Yes, the quality of seed is important, but the environment. So living an environment like that helps you with your self-esteem. So I just picked that as a great point to emphasize. If you need to change your environment for your own sake of your own growth, you would need to change that environment. Some people, you don't know what's wrong with them because they, in Mary's case, they actually knew that there's good stuff in here, but they intentionally decided to say evil stuff that they thought they could say. Quote from Elizabeth Dole that stood out or came to mind as you mentioned. She said, No one can make you inferior without your permission. No one can make you inferior without your permission. So people will say stuff. They will say stuff. But it's up to you to say, I don't believe that. I know I am better than this. I can do this. So if the environment requires, if the environment is so toxic, it might require that you leave. All right. Who is ready to share their experience? Elvis, afterwards, I'll tell you mine.
Yes. Now, from just the law of the mirror is connected to the more connected to the law of awareness. Your awareness about yourself affects how affects your image as a person. So if you, for example, if you know your individual personally, the more I became aware about my skills, my capacity, my abilities, the more the more I looked, the more it uplifted my image as a person, and also that more value. So the more I was more aware, the more value I attached to myself, even as I grew in my career. So the more I became aware about my skills and maybe the gaps I needed to improve, the more I started to build my image. So it's more connected, yeah, you know, between how aware am I about my abilities that will affect how I look at myself as a person. So it's so with time the two mirror one another.
Absolutely.
And it's also important that, you know, you are talking about negative energy. If the person surrounds themselves with negative energy, you it kind of will bring down your image as a person, or your outlook about the things, the many things you want to pursue. So if you have positive energy to kind of push you to the aspirations you're looking to, if each time you talk to someone about an idea and they were negative about it, you kind of
drop it
back, dropping, you know. So it's that, you know, we most times surround ourselves with people who encourage us. Of course, with the bit of criticism, it's good to have good criticism than people who drop down your idea each time you bring it up. So and this also, the law of the mirror is very common. You know, when we are doing recruitments, you could, it's just like you could do, as you interact with the candidate, you can tell from the candidate how much value they attribute to yourself. Even just the simple question of how much compensation would you expect to earn from this employment? If someone has low estimate about themselves or low confidence about their abilities, they would most times attach a lower figure to their value. But if you meet someone who has confidence in themselves, most times they attach the right value to themselves. So this is one practical way I see the law of the mirror, about how people value themselves and how I also value myself.
Wonderful. So you're taking us back to evaluating what we know we are good at, and then developing our thinking around those areas. So going back to the law of awareness, gave us a good exercise in that regard, to list at least 30. I remember she wanted 40, and I was like, come on, this is too much. It's too much. We have a day job. We have other things to do. But okay, 30 or so, maybe you've made some progress in that light, because it begins with awareness, as Elvis is saying. What do I know about myself that I am good at? How do I see myself? What is the value that I see in myself? If you could keep listing that and you get to 30, 40 qualities or adjectives that describe you, somehow it fills your emotional tank. So anyone who listed some, you want to throw out here? Rhoda is smiling. So you had like what, 47? You can share. How many did you come up with? You're muted. Okay.
I'm smiling because I did not do I didn't do the exercise. I'm just trying to jot down now.
Okay. No problem. Make some time this week and do it. It's a very good exercise. If you could give me a minute, let me see if I can find. This is a nice book if you can find it. I don't know if you can see it, you know, or when I see in the camera, it's reversed. It's a book called Confidence by Dr. Rob Young. He's one of the leading psychologists in the UK, BBC psychologist. He's a very good guy. But in there, he just does a lot of research and studies that emphasize the point we are raising. When you write these things down, number one, you have hand to subconscious coordination. Writing is even better than typing. When you start to write those things down, you're speaking and almost writing it into your subconscious. But you begin to see and speak to your heart and your mind and your heart of hearts what you actually see in yourself. It's a very great exercise. Just keep doing it over and over and it sinks in there. If you are like me, you use to-do lists, I would recommend. You probably have had a time where you felt overwhelmed. There's too much to do. But then when you sat down to list what needs to be done and you write it down, then you realize, actually, what was the fuss all about? It's not that complicated. It's not too much. I can actually do it. So there is a good, healthy reason to do the writing. And in here, he also talks about cuts. Now, Fiona made it easy for us. She's talked about qualities, adjectives, but Dr. Rob Young calls them capability affirming thoughts. And this is what I would want to leave you as an assignment. So Rhoda, welcome to double work. There was the adjectives and qualities. Now you're going to add cuts. CAT is an abbreviation, capability affirming thoughts. Again, lots of research from psychology that he comes up with. I don't have time to find the pages and read. But these cuts are so important if you can get them and write them down. What are those? These are deep truths that you believe to be true about you. Now, others might not believe, but you believe they are true about you. You write them down. They should be few, not too many, maximum 12, and read them to yourself as many times as you can every day, maybe in the morning. So somebody, I have worked with some leaders, I've coached many people, and this one comes up quite a bit. People say, I am fearfully and wonderfully made. You know, it's just wonderful truth. You know, I don't care what you think. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder. I am fearfully and wonderfully made. And they say it in the morning, fearfully and wonderfully made. My other cut, I have a cut which is interesting. I believe that I am a genius in strategy. If there is anything that needs a strategy in anything, I have a great contribution to make. So that's a capability affirming thought for me. So when it comes to strategy, no matter how complicated it is, I am a genius in strategy and I have something wonderful to contribute to any strategic conversation. Now, someone might not believe that about me because they don't know the full scope, the full story about me. Maybe they have met me in one corner of my life. But because I say that to myself, when there is a strategic problem, I actually bring my A game in that. I taught this to my son when he was like 5, 6 years old. Now he's 11. He wrote down a card for him, and it was simply reading, I am a maths genius. There's no math problem that can fail me. And so he kept saying that to himself. Guess what? He's now in grade 6. He's always either number 1 or number 2 in math in his class. When there's a math problem and he feels it's too hard, you'll see him going on even up to 10, 11 p.m. We say it's time to sleep, but he's like, no. I don't know why I'm missing it. I am a math genius. I will solve this. So he wakes up thinking that when it comes to math, there is no problem he can't solve. So I don't know about you, but you need to have a set of deep truths that you believe to be true. Dr. Rob Young calls them cuts. Write them down. And life will put you in very challenging situations. Your leadership life will take you into places where you need those cuts. You don't say them loudly, but you will be in a moment where you have to say, yeah, I can do this. I've done this before. So I don't know where that came from, but I thought it would be a good assignment. Back to the conversation we're having. What did you write as those 30 or so? Anyone who wants to share? Okay, we have one from Francis here. I don't know if everybody has seen it. If people always measure your abilities against your predecessors, it's like whatever you do for them, it has to either be better or same as your predecessors used to do. And so this beats my self-esteem so much that I feel I'm not doing or performing to my best, to the best of my knowledge. Thank you for the vulnerability and for sharing. So our friends online, any advice you have for Francis? What can he do in a situation like this? He has a leader who already compare with the previous performance. I don't know, I don't have context, but I know I have had situations like this also in relationships where people are like, now my ex, there could be a situation like that. But what do you do in a situation where the person who supervises you doesn't think you measure up, and that definitely affects your self-esteem? Anyone wants to share?
Can I?
Yes, Mary.
Yes, I think being in such a situation, especially if people don't know you or they have not worked with you before, it can happen. But one thing that at least those that are usually close to you and always give you the experiences of the predecessor, really you need to make it clear to them that you see what, we are unique. I cannot be like anybody else. We are unique. I'll do it my way, as long as you get the result that you are looking at. So from there, with your strategy that you are, I guess by the time you are doing the job, you know what the outputs are, what the goals are. You strategize how to get those things done. As long as you know what resources are available and how you can tap into those resources to get things done. The main thing is, do they know that you are unique? Because you cannot be like anybody else. Even if you try, you will just get tired and burn out. So if they can understand that, and then you do it your way and show, the results will show for themselves. Then people will change their mind or perception about you. So really, you just still have to remain sober and say, you know what? I came here to do this job and I'm confident I can do it. So it's the results that come out that will say, okay, this will be differently, but you still get the same results. So
So you're highlighting the need to perform or share the results, and maybe your methods, your approach is different, and you are saying we can communicate to this supervisor that I am unique and this is the unique value I bring. I think that's the other thing we've been learning earlier on. Focus on what you have, not what you don't have. So I might want to highlight to the supervisor, not in an aggressive way, but just help them to see along the way the value that I bring to the team. And where you have the level of assertiveness or comfort to say, look, I know Julius used to do it this way, but we are uniquely wired. And I think it helps to first believe it yourself that you can never be someone else. I think Space who says, be yourself, everyone else is taken. So you have no choice, just be yourself and highlight. Opportunity showcase your best. That's what I'm seeing here from Rhoda. All right, any other comment?
My input would be, it would also be important to understand the gaps. If there are any gaps, to have a discussion, a candid discussion with the supervisor, to understand the gaps. If there are any gaps, supervisor can raise, and then she can see how to, they can see how they can understand. So from the point of understanding, being aware of how to iron them out.
Absolutely. There are always gaps. There is always room to grow. So we all have these gaps. So just getting to a place of vulnerability and saying, okay, where do you think I can improve? And ask that person, in which ways do you think I can improve here? And make an effort to work on those areas where you think you can. And demonstrate that you are growing, and that person will come and help. All right. Anyone?
What if that person is not, he really doesn't seem to want you to get better, and he says that to demoralize you? And you ask them, okay, where are the gaps, or where do you think I can improve? And they don't seem to give you
they are not interested.
They're not interested.
Yeah.
So what happens in that case?
Sadly, there are many in Kampala. I work with lots of organizations, and I have met all sorts of characters. There's one leader who I won't give you so much detail. You might know about him, but he took the reins of a department as a general manager, and their performance has gone down. Now I think they are 28% below performance compared to the previous year. And the reason is he doesn't want anybody in his team to thrive or to succeed. He doesn't want a spotlight on anyone. So he walks around saying, you know, I am the captain of this ship. I don't share power with anyone, so I don't want anyone shining, you know, that kind of thing. And that wouldn't be the leader who will tell you where your gaps are. The leader who doesn't, that's the kind of leader who doesn't want you to grow. And John has taught us that people will ask you 3 questions as a leader. Do you care for me? Okay, can I trust you? Can you help me? That if you answer yes to all those 3 questions, you will be a great leader. Do you care for me? Now that leader doesn't care. Can I trust you? I don't think anybody would want to trust you. Can you help me? Maybe he can help. And that's what Elvis is saying. If you keep pushing enough, he will say some things that he wants you to grow in. But generally, my quick answer would be in a situation like that, to learn how to manage the boss. And in managing the boss, one of the things I have learned is take the initiative to clarify expectations. Maybe you have a 1-hour meeting or a 30-minute meeting once a week to say, look, this is what I'm planning to do. This is what I'm doing. These are my priority areas for this week. This is the approach I'm taking. I just want to hear from you. Am I on the right track? Is there something that I need to change in terms of priorities? Would you want to add another task that I need to do this week? So that you, in terms of saying, this is how my plate looks like, it's a full plate, but is there something you want to change here? Something you want to add, something to remove? If you have that level of interaction weekly, even if it's for 20 minutes, to say, hey boss, this is what I'm doing. What do you think? And then the boss will either say, let's add this, or let's remove this, or try this other approach. Invariably, he will be telling you the areas he wants you to do things differently.
Hi, Mary.
Yes, Mary.
Yeah, but also as you discuss what you have, the plans that you have for the week, it would be also good to actually start with updates for the previous week. What were you able to achieve? What challenges you had? And maybe where would you need their help to help you achieve what you had set out to do, or what you have set out to do? Because there are certain things which are out of your control that maybe need their intervention to have the job completed as expected. So those should be quite clear within the means that are achievable or realistic for the organization or from the department in which you are working. Things that are within their scope, not out of their scope. I think it also helps they are kept in the know of what is going on, what we have planned, what is coming out of your strategy. So it helps, I think, also.
Brilliant. Ambrose has also added to the thought, saying, try to understand your scope of work, your JD, outline your strengths in line with your tasks, and then deliver. And I like how you've put it. Say the principle is focus on the goals and deliver, because potential and you can be unique and that can be debated, but results can't be debated. So if you can perform and deliver the results, they wouldn't be debated. All right, our time is fast spent, so I need to get into some of the things we want you to do midweek to get better in this area. One is outline the cuts. Again, if you don't do them, it's up to you. You are cheating yourself. Write the cuts. And here I'm not looking at Rhoda, not at all. No, just kidding. But now we are going to do something here. One word to describe you. If you are to pick one word to describe you, and this is not an assignment for the future. Now, if you are to pick one word to describe you, what would it be? Talking about the value you place on yourself. If you looked in the mirror and you saw greatness and you were to try to describe this person, one word, what word would you use? All right, you have had a few seconds to think about it. So I will call out names at random. One word to describe you. Elvis.
One word. I think one word is a bit limiting. Maybe I could say brilliant.
Brilliant. Brilliant. Good. Okay. Jacqueline. So you look in the mirror, we're talking about the value you see yourself and put it in one word as a brand.
I saw that coming when I started smiling, Julius. Agile.
Agile.
Yes.
Okay, awesome. So brilliance, and that the world needs that, great value. Agility, that's the new description of what people need in a volatile, uncertain, complex ambiguous world, they call it VUCA world, agility is the way to go. Rhoda found the word. I saw jolly. Was that from you? Yeah, jolly. Full of joy.
Yes, that you'll find with me.
Okay. You bring happiness to the world around you. Brilliant. Ambrose is saying servanthood. The ability to serve, the heart to serve. That's leadership personified, just serving others. Jean?
Principled.
Principled. A person of values, you know, you're principled, you keep your values. Brilliant. Francis, perfectionist. Make sure that everything is perfect. You try, your world is about bringing the very best, excellence in everything. All right? Awesome, awesome. Anyone else? Yes, Mr. Semanda, I see you're muted.
Yeah. Resilient.
Resilient. And that's important, because you know that's a great value you bring, resilience. No matter what happens, you keep going. A good book I have read which talks about that is called Grit, by a lady called Linda Kaplan Thera. So if you want to read, that's a good book to read, Grit. I think she later wrote Grit to Great. But she makes a case that the most successful people in the world were not because they were from better families or that they were A students, they got good grades and all. No, actually they were C grade kind of people. They were a normal person, but they had grit. And that grit is resilience. So resilience will take you to the upper echelons of anything. You will always be successful. Mary, what did you write? One word.
Self-driven.
Hey, is that one word or two? Okay. It's hyphenated, one word.
Yes, from your world. Are they two or one?
We'll take that. Self-driven. Like you're motivated from within, intrinsically motivated. You just put out any and you drive yourself. You don't need to be supervised to get things done.
No.
Awesome, awesome. Good stuff. I think we've heard from everyone. My word would be, it keeps changing every time I do a class on this, but I think right now I feel like my word would be amazing. So like I look and say, wow, what was God thinking when he was creating me? He put everything in me here. Amazing, amazing. I like to bring amazing to the world around me. I like to look at my work and say, okay, is this amazing? Not yet. Okay, let me try and do more, because amazing delivers amazing. So I define myself as amazing. Now, there are people who, okay, Francis is saying the microphone is not working well, but at least we get the things typed. Thank you. Believe it or not, there are classes where we've done this and people give you words that are not nice. Now, everybody has given nice words. So congratulations, you have a healthy self-esteem, but do this often. There will be times when you don't feel like amazing, you don't feel like brilliant. You just have to remind yourself, look, this is just circumstance. It's a specific time in my life, but overall, I am amazing, I am brilliant. What else did I want to say? Yeah, limiting beliefs. We will end with this. Limiting beliefs. Those are beliefs that we have in ourselves. Maybe they are beliefs that we've grown up to believe to be true, and they limit us. Now, they become true because we believe they are true, but they may not necessarily be true. They are limiting beliefs. In fact, they are not true. Because what we've seen in history is that a human being under God, you can do anything, you can be anything, even where things are so impossible, you can find the resources to help you do whatever you want to do. You can connect to the right person to do what you are not able to do. So in terms of potential, it's limitless. We can be anything. But the limits we place on ourselves limit our potential. In fact, Les Brown put it this way, that the only limits you have are the limits you put in your mind. And those limiting beliefs are really what we focus on in the law of the mirror. I don't know about you, but you need to write them down. It's part of growing. It's part of recognizing what is affecting you, what's holding you back. And then you find a plan to address those. And those limiting beliefs, if you sat down in the quiet moments prayerfully, you will know them. You will see, I am held back because I believe this about myself. So I'll tell you a quick story, which I said I will tell you. So I have to honor my promise, the few remaining minutes. So this was a huge limiting belief for me. I'm still working on it, still struggling with it, but I am in a much better place. So I got appointed to the CIM board, the advisory group. We advise the board on all matters learning. So we are the technical board. Yes, there's a board of trustees, which is just to oversee. They're kind of the owners of the business, their board of trustees. But the group that runs the business, the group that does the technical work, the group that advises what needs to be done is the learning advisor group. So we advise the board on policy, matters of learning, on how to train people, how to change the world with marketers, what the market is looking for when it comes to marketers, how do you develop those kind of marketers, how do you promote marketing in the world, how do you examine marketers. And I'm a chartered marketer, so I applied. I put out my best foot forward because they needed people to advise on matters of learning. My experience, which I put forward, was relevant. I have studied on 3 continents in 7 universities. Now I have learned how people teach differently. So that was what I have. Remember where I said, look to what you have, not what you don't have. So I knew I had a lot to give. I know how people teach in so many different cultures. And I'd been a fresh student, recently chartered. So I knew the pain of what students go through if you are to try and teach them. And these students are not just students, they are professionals. They are busy, they are married, they have families, they have businesses. So again, learning in that context, I had ideas. I'd been trained both in the distance learning model, but had also been trained in a class, just on my way to being chartered. So I had distance learning, blended learning, and in-class learning in 3 different areas. So I had a lot. Now, when I arrived, there were interviews, there were processes you have to apply and go through. And I went through all of them and I was appointed. Yay, hooray, now I am going to sit on this board. And they pay for all your flights, all your accommodation, everything you need. 3 times a year, you go to the UK for these meetings. You have some meetings online like these, but then I would fly. Now, I was the one that comes from the farthest. So they would spend more on me. Yeah, and I kind of felt like that's a burden. I have to prove that I am adding value here. So in a meeting, the first meeting when I arrived, number one, everyone was older. Number two, they were professors. When they introduced themselves, some names I would recognize. I say, my goodness, now I'm seated next to this guy. Oh, I hope I say something brilliant, because what if he looks around and says, no. In all my research, I've never heard of anything like that. So guys who have written books, professors in top universities, top leaders in big brands, they were there. Number two, they were white. Now me, I'm black. And see, okay, the light helps, but I'm black and dark. Now I began to look at that as a definition of the value I can bring to this room. So when people began to introduce themselves, Professor so-and-so, and the British know how to really put their best foot forward. They say all the things they have done, the amazing things they have done. The person next to me was the senior examiner. He had been a senior examiner for 22 years. When he mentioned his name, I even feared the man, because we knew the name as students. Now it was my turn to introduce myself. After huge CVs, I said, what am I going to say that would impress these people? And in actual sense, as everyone was introducing themselves, my mind was too focused on me. I was too self-conscious. And when you are in that spot of being too self-conscious, then you can't think about what is being discussed. You can't present, you can't bring ideas. Anyway, to cut the long story short, so I'm in this meeting and I said, my name is Julius Lukwago, I am from Uganda. That's all I said. It's like, I couldn't say anything more to, it's like, what are you going to say to impress these people? And they waited. There was a moment of silence, like they're waiting for me to say more. I did not add anything. And then they moved on. And the meeting is 2 hours, 3 hours sometimes. So we would go on and on and on. And they produce the minutes. The British are very good with minutes. They write the detail. Okay, Jacqueline said this, then Julius asked this question, then Elvis said this, Francis asked this question, Katunji said this, and then Jean responded to that. It's very detailed. So the names are there. The first minutes came out and my name was in one place, attendees, like the people who attended. I said, no, really, I didn't say anything in this meeting. I purposed that I will say a lot the next meeting. So the next meeting, I was very convinced I need to bring value to this room. I was questioning my worthiness of being in the room. I would look around and say, why am I here? In fact, I was very scared being in that room. So why am I here? So I kept quiet because I was like, what if I say things and they ask, is he in the right meeting? Maybe he's mistakenly, in this room. So I was very concerned about how I present myself. The next meeting I came, I'd done the research, and I used to do very good with, all the offline kind of things. But in the meetings, I was intimidated. So the next meeting, I said I would say a lot. Breaking news. The meeting ended. My name was in one place. Attendance. I'm like, Jesus, what's wrong with this man? So it's like, okay, there were moments when we had to vote and I voted. We were voting on this. But is that what they pay business class to fly and go and attend? So I came back, I was flying, it was my first time actually flying on the A380, the double-decker plane. So I'm looking at all these things and saying, wow, this is brilliant stuff, but they're paying and I'm not adding value. I need to do things differently. So my self-image was affecting my ability to lead, my ability to add value to that meeting, my ability to help marketers globally around the world, because all the brilliance I had was bottled up because I could not rise beyond my self-esteem. And that's what the world misses when we don't believe in ourselves. That's what the world misses. So third meeting, I said, now really, we have to do things differently. And it's self-talk really. I began to look at what I have. I have been to all these great universities. I know how people teach differently. I have lived in many different cultures. I understand different worlds. A recent graduate, I know, what students go through. I am from the developing world. These people are all from Europe. They have no clue about the international market. I do. So I looked at what do I have that I can bring to add value. And so in that meeting, I began by, just encouraging myself. Jean says something, and then I will say, yeah. I agree with what Jean has said, I like Ambrose's point, good point. So that gave me some energy, and I began to contribute. Now, at least of course, they wouldn't say Julius said that was a brilliant point. So my name was not in many places. But I began to ask questions, and they would begin to reflect. And the next meeting, now this should be like the fourth meeting, I had already built up some confidence. I also got some brilliant ideas. I would come and have a meeting before the meeting. We would come the night before, so I made it a point to interact with the people, get to know them, feel less intimidated. Share some of my ideas with them, get their reaction. So that built up a little bit of confidence. In the meeting, I began to share ideas. And to cut the long story short, the CEO took me aside and said, my goodness, I like your perspective. We are missing that international perspective. You have amazing ideas. Can I invite you to these other meetings? You're not part of this other group, but we are missing that other perspective. Is it okay if I invited you for this other group as well? I said, wow, look, the world has been missing this level of brilliance. In another meeting, somebody who, now this guy is, he was head of business. I don't know if he still is, but he was dealing with number 10 in the UK, and he's helping the government develop some capacity building tools, and they are training all these leaders there. But he had a project where he was short by some amount. I don't remember, maybe £2 million. And he was looking for ideas to fill in the £2 million gap. Now, I had ideas and I shared a few of them. And then we said, why don't we meet after the meeting so that we can thresh out these ideas and do more and get better for him in these areas. He said he will have maybe 30 minutes because he's a busy guy. But he liked my ideas. So he gave me 30 minutes off schedule. So I'm telling you the story of what I used to withhold because I didn't believe in myself. And when I began to speak, these guys began to see the value that, they saw in me then. So we go to this guy's office, and I begin to share a strategy, a plan, how we can close the £2 million gap. And we began to brainstorm together. And it moved from 2 million to 3 million. And he had other meetings. He called his PA and said, can you please cancel all my meetings in the afternoon? I am here with Julius. We are dealing with some brilliant ideas that we are going to, we're going to do big things. We ended that evening with £5 million, with a £5 million strategy, and he knew how he could get the money. So I came back and I sat on that plane feeling like, wow, I am something, you know. I actually have something. And I remember writing down what my limiting belief had been. And I had finally found a way of dealing with it. My limiting belief had been that I went to very poor schools when I was growing up, that I came from a very poor background, you know, where I went to school in primary, you know. In the morning, it was class. In the evening, they would bring goats. It was a store for the goats. Okay, somebody's battery is off. They have to go. Actually, it's our time to end. So what happened is I said to myself, it doesn't matter your past, your background, how you were brought up, which schools you went to. All of that matters nothing. It's what you are able to do now that matters. And I wrote down, brilliance has no root in geography. For me to remind myself that brilliance has no root in geography. Because in that meeting, I was looking at myself, from Uganda, what can you do? From, you know, Masaka, what will you do? So I began to believe that God has ideas given to anyone. Brilliant ideas are not limited to specific people who have grown up in specific places. And so any one of us can be. So for me, my limiting belief had been my education background, my geographical background. All of that has an effect on my ability and my brilliance, which is not true. So right now I go to train in high places. I coach some very high level people because I believe I can. I don't have to be from a specific location, a specific community. That, my friends, is the story of how I have struggled with the law of the mirror. Now I have a much better perception of who I am. I don't limit my thought of brilliance to my education. Long story, but that's it. I had promised to complete it.
Thank you, Julius.
I'll leave you with an assignment to figure out what your limiting belief is. What's your limiting belief? What's limiting you?
Julius, sorry, can I just say something about your story, which I think, sorry, I have my whole clan behind me here, so they're making a bit of noise, so bear with me. I think for me, listening to your story, which is really a great story, and also looking at the sort of circumstances that we go through in our different environments, I think the one thing that has worked for me and that I keep saying to myself and reinforcing from time to time is the fact that as me, I think for me what I need to do is become better than my parents at everything. In terms of the education that I got from them, I need therefore to make my children better. In terms of things that I thought I should have gotten, but I didn't get, I should work harder to ensure that my children get that. So in so doing, you find that you're actually forcing yourself to behave a certain way and to do certain things that you would ordinarily not have done. And in a way, then it fosters the whole idea around your growth, around making yourself better, around being able to contribute slightly more to the people around you and the world around you. And I think it does work. For me, at least, it does work. I don't know about my colleagues on the call.
Brilliant. It does work. It's like it pushes us to be more and do more. Parting shots. Elvis, any parting?
Yeah, for me, while we're in school, you know, it goes just to the environment. You know, the environment in which you grow shapes what you believe about yourself. When I was in school, our teacher used to tell us, you know, you're the best in the country. So if exam is hard. It's hard for the whole country. So that's kind of how I grew, knowing you know, I'm good enough to stand any challenge. If it is hard for me, it is hard as well. So it's kind of built. So I think these things also could be built by the environment.
Absolutely.
Though, just like for change, we can change if it is negative, and turn the story around, you know. So
absolutely.
Yes.
Thank you very much. I'm afraid we need to end, so quick parting thoughts about this law and we close.
Julius.
Yeah.
Myself, I think there's a lot to reflect on the cuts and the other positives about myself. And I guess I will have to try and see and speak to myself.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Awesome. And also, if you can try and figure out what's your limiting belief, you know, and then what are you going to do to address it? Rhoda?
Yeah, sorry, I always have a challenge in trying to unmute myself, but I think I'm like Mary. I'll do the assignment to list down the 40 positives about myself, do the cut, and then the limiting factors, you know. You keep thinking about them, you think you've overcome them, and then the thoughts come. So that one I need really to dream about them, think about them, and then do a plan on how to overcome them. Thank you for sharing your story.
You're welcome. All right, Bwana Semanda, any parting thoughts?
Whoever mentioned accountability partner has done it. So that's actually, besides the other tasks, it's one of the things that I want to focus on starting tonight. I really need an accountability partner. Of course, this means looking at the rule itself, the law itself extensively, and of course, these other things that we have to look at. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. I think Francis said he is not. Francis Lule said he's not able to speak. Jean, I think you're the last person.
Yes. I have to keep speaking to myself, telling myself what I am, not to look at what I'm not. Keep encouraging myself, telling myself, this is what you are, this is what you can do. And so that way, I believe I'm going to become better.
Lovely. Thank you very much. It's been lovely spending the evening with you. So we'll end now. And you'll...
Thank you very much, Julius.
Thank you.